books today, okay? So our first book we're going to read is Curious George Loves to Ride. And we see Curious George and he's riding a bicycle. Okay, let's see what he's gonna do. This is George. He is a good monkey and is very curious. George loves to go places and is always ready to ride off on an adventure. What do you think George rides around his room? All right, so here's George, Curious George. And what do you think he's going to ride on in his room? So he has a ball and a toy. I wonder what he's going to ride on. He rides a ball. What does George ride at the circus? So here we see he's riding his ball. What is he going to ride at the circus? Let's find out. A bicycle. What will George ride to get downtown? So here we go. He's at the circus and he's riding his bicycle. Let's see what he's going to ride downtown. A taxi cab or a subway train? Here we have the taxi, or is he going to ride the train? No, George likes to ride the bus. And George is riding the bus, but on top of the bus, not inside. How does George ride high up in the sky? He hangs from balloons. Here is George, and he's hanging from the balloons in the sky. And he glides on a kite. So in the sky, he's gliding on the kite and the balloons. And sometimes he rides in a helicopter. Look, he's riding on a helicopter. Where is Curious George? There he is. But when George is ready to go home, what is he gonna ride in when he goes home? What do you think? He rides in a little blue car with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. Goodbye, George. So he's gonna go home. He goes home in a blue car. Very good. That was our first story. Curious George Loves to Ride. Okay, let's read our second story. Our second story is called Onward, and it's a movie. Let's see what this is going to be about. Hi! All right, long ago, the world was full of wonder. Unicorns soared through the sky. Merfolk frolicked in the oceans, and centaurs raced through the forest. Everyone used magic to make their lives easier, but in a time, technology took over and magic slowly faded away. Wow, look at all of them using magic. You see a unicorn? Very good. Okay, let's see. Now in this town of New Mushroom Town, life was ordinary. A teenage elf named Ian lived with his mom Laurel and his older brother Barley and their pet dragon Blazy. On Ian's 16th birthday, Laurel gave him a special gift that changed everything. Ian's father, who had passed away before Ian was born, had left it for him. It was a wizard's staff at a phoenix gem and a spell that could bring his father back to life for one day. You see, look, they have a pet dragon and they have their family. And then they have a magic wand that they're going to use. Good, let's see what happens. Barley thought he was an expert at magic. He tried to conjure their father over and over again, but nothing worked. When Ian tried, the boy's father slowly began to appear, but the brothers couldn't believe it. Ian, not Barley, had the gift of magic. Oh, look at that. It's some feet that's growing. Let's see what happens. Then something went wrong. The phoenix gem exploded before Ian finished the spell. All that appeared was the father's legs. The brothers had to act fast. Their dad would disappear forever at the sunset the next day. They jumped into Barley's van to set off on a quest to find another gem. They arrived at Manticore's tavern. Barely believed that the legendary Manticore, known for her life of danger and risk, could give them a map to another gem. With their dad in disguise, the group entered the tavern. So here are the legs. And they're going on an adventure in their car. And the car has a unicorn on it. And they're going to a spooky house. Let's see. Anne saw that it was no longer an adventure and danger. It was a fun family restaurant. The boys found Manticore and asked for the map to the Phoenix Gem. She refused, telling them that the journey was far too risky. She offered them a children's menu instead, since it was based on her map. Ian pointed out to the Manticore that she wasn't daring creature she used to be. The Manticore realized the truth in his words. Enraged, she began to destroy parts of her tavern, and her map was destroyed too. As the building crumbled around them, Ian used magic to save their dad from a falling beam. So here are all the animals, and they go to the restaurant, but then they make the Manticore mad. Look at all the fire. Uh-oh. And they have to escape. Without a map, Ian and Barley decided to follow the children's menu and go to a place called Raven's Point. On the way there, the car ran out of gas. Ian tried to use magic to make the gas can bigger, but he shrank Barley instead. At a nearby gas station, the boys accidentally angered the motorcycle club of spirits called the Pixie Dusters. The spirits chased them. The trio ran to the van. Ian was afraid to drive, but with Barley's help, he weaved and swerved all throughout the highway, leaving the Pixie Dusters behind. Okay. Then the police pulled the van over. The brothers tricked them by using magic to disguise themselves as their mom's boyfriend, Officer Colt Bronco. After the boys got away, they began to argue. Ian was worried about wasting time, and Barley wanted Ian to listen to his ideas. All of a sudden, their dad started dancing and got the boys to join. Ian finally agreed to do things Barley's way, so they left the highway and drove down an ancient road called the Faith of Peril. It led to a cliff overlooking a bottomless pit. The only way to get across the pit was with magic. With Barley's encouragement, Ian made it to the other side. He lowered a bridge for everyone to cross. So now they're going to cross the bridge. And he used using magic to cross the bridge. Let's see what happens after. Suddenly, the police, including the real officer Colt Bronco, were on their tail. Barley had to sacrifice his car to buy some time to get away. He placed a rock on the van's gas pedal and watched as she crashed into some rocks, blocking the road. They continued on foot and realized they need to follow the path the ravens are pointing to. And they found out one statue, which pointed to another statue, which finally led them to a dark cave. So look, this is pointing this way. They're pointing to this one. And this is pointing down to the raven, and they're going to go into a cave, a dark cave. I wonder what they're going to find in the cave. Let's see what they're going to find. With magic, Ian created a cheese puff boat so they could speed along the river. Barley said he regretted not saying goodbye to their dad before he died. That was when he decided never to be scared. At the end of the tunnel, the trio came to a set of stairs and an ancient archway. They ran to safety, dodging some dangerous traps. So here they made the giant cheese puff and they're going on the river. And look at the dangerous traps with all these arrows pointing to them, and he needs to protect them. Okay, let's see. They finally reached the end of their quest, only to find themselves right back in New Mushroom Town. Ian was angry that he had trusted Barley. He stormed off with their dad. They were almost out of time. Alone with his thoughts, Ian realized that everything he wanted to do with his dad, he'd already done with Barley. His older brother had always been there for him. Meanwhile, Barley had found the Phoenix gem. He had also awakened a curse. Ian returned and saw his high school transformed into a dragon. Just then, the Manticore and Laurel swooped in. They had teamed up to help the boys while they fought the dragon. Ian tried to bring the rest of his dad back. So now they're going to fight the big dragon right here. They have to fight it and win. Okay, let's see what happens after. But long before the dragon charged at Ian and Barley, Ian wanted to give Barley his last chance to say goodbye to their dad. Using magic, he sent the Manticore's sword, the Curse Crusher, deep into the monster's core, defeating it once and for all. Rocks and rumble fell all around Ian. He watched from afar as Barley and their dad, now in full form, talked and laughed together. The two shared a final embrace before their father disappeared into thin air. So he beat the dragon, and now he's watching them say goodbye. Okay. When the brothers reunited, Barley told Ian that their dad was very proud of them, and he had asked Barley to give Ian a big, loving hug. Ian smiled, even though he hadn't met his dad. The quest had brought him closer to Barley. He knew he could always depend on his big brother. Okay, very good. Let's read one more. So our next book is A Place for Mulan. This is Mulan. Okay. Mulan was a girl who never behaved the way people expected. Here we see Mulan. She was a spirited girl. Some might say too spirited. Sometimes she didn't fit in with what was expected at home. So you see Mulan, and Mulan is playing, and everyone else is not playing. So Mulan is different. And Mulan didn't exactly fit in with the other girls in her village either. She wasn't careful or quiet. She was rarely graceful, and she was almost never refined. So here's Mulan, and she's different from the other girls. She's not careful. She's not graceful, and she's not refined. Mulan didn't fit in with the chickens because she wasn't a chicken. Here's Mulan with the chickens, and she's pretending she's a chicken. Mulan's mother found it difficult to explain why Mulan was the way she was. Mulan, her mother would say, I need you to at least try to behave. I do try, Mulan said. Then please try harder. So when Mulan practiced calligraphy, she tried her very hardest. Mulan listened intently while her father explained the proper way to make brush strokes. So they're practicing their writing with Mulan and her father. Okay. But eventually she found herself staring at the sky. Father, have you ever noticed our brushstrokes look like long necks of a crane? Graceful and strong. Mulan's father smiled and then redirected Mulan to the task at hand. So Mulan is getting distracted by the cranes. Paying attention was difficult. After a while, Mulan found new uses for her calligraphy brush, and her parents were not amused. Mulan, there is a time and a place for warriors, but now is not that time, and this is not that place, said her father. So Mulan started to use her calligraphy skills as warrior skills. Very good. Later that day, Mulan visited the horses in the courtyard. Her favorite was Black Wind. She enjoyed taking care of him. Okay, so we see Mulan and her horse, and she's feeding her horse. What is she feeding her horse? She's feeding her horse an apple. Okay. And she especially loved to ride. There was nothing better than the feeling of wind in her hair as black winds galloped through the lush countryside. So here is Mulan, and she is riding her horse in the countryside. Riding was Mulan's one comfort. But she wondered if the day would ever come when she'd find a place she'd belong. So Mulan doesn't really hang out with any of her friends. She doesn't feel like she belongs. She's lonely. Let's see if she'll find some friends. When Mulan returned home, it was time for her weaving. She watched as her little sister did it effortlessly. You make your ancestors proud, her mother said. So Mulan's little sister is very good at weaving, and her parents are proud of her. Mulan tried, but she couldn't quite figure it out. Uh-oh, let's see. Let's look at Mulan trying to weave. So she couldn't really figure it out. Uh-oh. And she's losing the string. So she stopped doing it. And Mulan looks very sad. Her little sister helped clean up. You're fighting the materials instead of working with them. Mulan's sister untangled the fabric. Take this piece. You're trying to make something it doesn't want to be. I've been doing that a lot lately, Mulan said. So Mulan and her little sister, is saying, you're fighting with your materials, and Mulan is sitting down, and she looks really upset. In the back of the room, their father cleared his throat. Your little sister is very wise. He invited Mulan to go for a walk. So Mulan and her dad are gonna go on a walk. So you see Mulan and her sister, and they're going for a walk now. I see you. You're reading your book. Wow, very good. All right. As soon as they go outside, Mulan cried. I try so hard to be like everyone else. I know, said her father, but I don't belong. And the harder I try, the less I fit in. So Mulan is talking to her dad right here. And she says she doesn't belong. She keeps trying too hard to fit in. Mulan's father pointed to a meadow full of yellow flowers. Mulan, see how these flowers fit together? When they're in a field, it's difficult to tell them apart. A tear ran down Mulan's cheek. I would give anything to be like them. But what if you are not a yellow flower, Mulan? He motioned to a nearby tree. What if you are a magnolia blossom? No matter how hard she tries, a magnolia will always be what she is. Beautiful, distinct, and different. So Mulan wants to be like all the yellow flowers, but her father says, no, you are like a magnolia. You are beautiful and different. Okay. Mulan's father continued, you jump in puddles because you are adventuresome. You twirl your brushes because you see possibilities others don't. You ride horses because you are spirited and brave. Mulan's heart swelled. So we see Mulan and her dad. And Mulan is very different. She likes to do different things. So she is like the tree because she's different. She felt her sadness melt away. She wasn't the same as everyone else. But Mulan had gifts of her own. Mulan knew her path would be different. And for the first time, different didn't feel so bad. So Mulan is different, but being different is not bad because she is a lot of wonderful things, just like you're a lot of wonderful things. Very good. All right. Okay, and then that's the end. In the back, we see little kids playing and the tree. Very good. And that's the end of our story. Okay, thank you for being in story time. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow again. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye. Bye.